Hello, welcome or welcome back to Sapling Tarot. My name is Imogen, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of an unasked for VR to one of Marlene Teresa's most recent videos about significator cards and finding your card in a deck which you can use in readings, you can use it to carry with you, you can use it for all sorts of things. And so I wanted to show you my methods. Well, they're not my methods. Let's get that straight. But the methods that I know and that I will attribute where I can for finding your significator card. Now, right off the top, I do want to say that I believe that your significator can be any card in the deck that you feel drawn to. Sometimes I like using a card from a different deck so that I have the full 78 for the actual reading, and I'll just plonk my card in the centre of the reading and then do the reading around with the other cards. So there's no right or wrong way to use a significator. I didn't use one for years and still often don't unless I'm doing something more complex where I want that kind of grounding in the middle of a card that I really relate to. And so I just wanted to go through some of the ways that Marlene talked about, some other ways, because there are some things where the maths and the numerology can go in a couple of different directions. So I wanted to talk about that. And then I also just wanted to get out all of these ridiculous, beautiful cards and have an opportunity to show them rather than always being like a deck focused thing. I thought that it would be a nice way to just look at some cards and how they are depicted across different decks. The decks I've chosen today are predominantly Waite based decks, with a couple of kind of exceptions of where they've dabbled a little bit in other systems. Some are a little bit pippish, some are a little bit kind of Thoth adjacent, some are just kind of doing their own thing. But because a lot of it is numerology based, I wanted to make sure that all of the numbers were the same, just in the cards I was going to be showing you. I do sometimes do something like this over on my Instagram. Generally once a month I'll pull the same card out of a handful of decks. So that you can see the differences in how artists and creators have decided to depict the archetypes and the imagery and the feeling of that particular card. And I think that can be a really interesting way to broaden or deepen a tarot practice by seeing the different ways next to each other that the cards can be interpreted. Obviously, this is not all of the ways that the cards can be interpreted. There are more ways than I could even imagine. But yeah, so I'm going to jump in with some majors for the years. So I'm going to start off with the card for this year, 2024, which is the collective year. It's a collective strength year if you follow the Waite system. With strength being the 8th card. And as you can see, there are some fairly typical depictions here. That's a bit of an unsatisfying number, isn't it? Anyway, we're just going to have to deal with it. And so this year, 2 plus 2 plus 4 is 8. And so we end up with the 8th card, which is the strength card across these. The Goddess of Love decided to go with lust, but still has the lion and the flowers to show the balance between force and softness, and about kind of, you've often got this, I mean here it's more of a kind of a wrestling motion, but in the classic illustrations it's there's a gentleness to it, it's a taming of a wildness. In here, which is the Spacious Tarot, you've got something blooming from something quite aggressive, spiky, cactus. The animals are all various levels of, I mean this is quite a vicious looking one, those teeth look pretty severe. This is I mean, wow, what a creature. But then this guy's just chilling. He's just happy to be there. He's having a great day. And this is just a very kind of tender moment between the person and the creature. So that's 2024. That is the strength card for all of us for the year, should we choose to accept it. So along that similar vein, if you add, and this is where the maths can get a little bit different depending on how you do it. So I will put up on the screen how I do the maths, which is the way that Mary K Greer talks about in her books, which is your birth date plus your birth month plus the current year. I don't know why I'm tracing it, I'm going to put it on the screen. And adding them all together rather than adding every single digit all together, because you can end up with different numbers. So I think it's important to properly express which maths I'm using. And so that's the way that I do it. That's the way I've done it for all of the ones that are going to follow. I think Marlene did it the other way, which is with the digit, which is obviously equally valid. It's just important to know which system. I'm quite lucky in that my maths for my birth card, which we'll get to in a minute, is actually the same whichever way you do it. It's really not a big deal. But I think with some numbers you do end up with, like with some dates, you end up with different cards. So this is my card for the year. It's the Hanged One, the Hanged Man. I think he's also the Hanged Man. Hanged One, for a couple. And then, inexplicably, the Gentle Thrills has gone with the Traitor. And the guidebook for the Gentle Thrills says nothing about why that is the card for the Hanged Man. I would be super interested if anyone has any insight into why that wild card, I mean literal wild card is how it is, because I like the Hanged One as a card. I don't get the traitor thing. I suppose maybe someone being strung up by their ankles would be a punishment, but I mean generally that's not how I read the Hanged Man. So yeah, any insight on this particular card would be greatly appreciated. I like all of these cards because no one looks stressed to be hanging upside down, and my interpretation of the Hanged Man is that that person chose to go up there. Like, I always think of it as someone hanging upside down from a tree, like for fun. And I mean, I know they're like tied, but it's like my belief that they put themselves there and it's a choice, and they're trying to see the world from a different perspective and taking some time out. But there's like a fun, maybe not fun, maybe fun's too strong a word, but it's a choice, is my view on the Hanged Man, the Hanged One, because you get to see things from a different viewpoint, and there's so much value in that. And yeah, I think about it in there's a sacrifice there of, removing yourself from a situation can feel like a sacrifice, but I think the net gain of taking a moment to recenter, come back to yourself, but yeah, also have that inverted viewpoint. And so that's my card for the year, and I will be interested to see how that pans out, and I'm interested to see if by the end of the year I understand more about why there's like a treachery element to it. Some people will read this as this is your card from your birthday, or it's the year of your birthday. I haven't decided yet. And I'm currently in my astrological annual perfection. I'm in a 5th house year, so that is Leo, which is strength, and so I'm already on the kind of the strength train with the collective card for the year, and so I'm choosing the Hanged One to follow me through the year, and then we'll circle back and see where we end up. Okay, so the next one is another numerological one, and this is following the same system as the last one, is working out your birth card, which Mary K Greer refers to as your personality card. And mine adds up to 10. Again, I will put the maths on the screen. So this is my birth card, which I will admit is it's a bit of an odd one. I don't really know what to do with the Wheel of Fortune as a personality, as an indicator of how my life might go. of what that means in terms of things that I should look out for. I still need to maybe do some work on this one because there's something so ephemeral and transient about the Wheel of Fortune that it really doesn't give you anything to kind of grab onto. And I'm learning to be more okay with that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't super know what to do with it. I like that it's got all of the oh, I am out of frame. All of the astrological things. I like that there's kind of, hidden and not so hidden meanings to it. I just love this card. I think it's really beautiful. I have a tattoo on my back that looks quite like the central bit of the wheel, and I had that a long time before I knew about classic Smith-Waite or Hermetic, Golden Dawn, whatever symbologies and stuff. And so I like the symbolism in the cards. I mean, these ones, again, this is just such a weird deck. These guys look so angry. And I also like this one, who is the Anansi, the spider god. And I love him, and I love this card with all of the fabrics, and I think that it's really special. So I don't mind having it as my card. I just don't fully understand what that means, and I hope that becomes clearer in time, which inevitably it will. So what you do if you end up with a 2-digit personality number, birth card number, is you can add those digits together and end up with another card, which Mary K Greer refers to as your soul card. And I think this is the card that I worked out with the first time I did it, because I just kept adding all the digits together, which obviously you don't have to do because there's 21 cards that you could get in the major arcana, because mathematically I'm assuming you couldn't get the full. But yeah, so this was the first one that I got, and this one maybe makes a little bit more sense to me in terms of the person that I am. There's the mercurial kind of element to it, there's the as above so below thing, there's the trying to be a balance of all of the different elements and having the resources you need within you, and that is something that I had as sort of like a bit of a motto when I was growing up, when I was, had been conditioned by society that being really individualistic was the only way to save myself, and to not rely on others and all of that kind of stuff. And so this is definitely how I started, which it makes sense because it's card number 1, the first person you meet on the journey, and so that makes sense to me because that's where I began and where we all begin. So that is the soul card. And then with the numerology, often there will be another number that, when added together, makes the same thing as your personality card. And this doesn't work with all numbers, I don't think. The number would end up too big, or it just doesn't, the maths doesn't work. But for my numbers, that does work, and I get card number 19, which is the sun. So Mary K Greer describes this as your shadow in your younger life and your teacher in your later life, or words to that effect. I am massively paraphrasing here. And I'll admit I don't have a lot of kinship with the sun card. I like it, as I'm sure people generally do. I love sunflowers, but I don't get it in the way that I feel like I get a lot of other cards, in the way that I feel like I can feel magician energy in me. I can understand Wheel of Fortune energy a little bit better, but sun energy, I don't. And I mean, this probably just sounds really depressing. That I know happiness and sunflowers and joy and things like that, but I don't, in terms of what that means as a person or as a shadow or as a teacher. I mean, I wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, if it's, I suppose, the journey God damn. Anyway, the journey that I've been on has moved me from this kind of dogged individualism of my teens and young adult life, and I have been shifting to a sunnier view. In some ways, it's a little bit like reclaiming my childhood, which is what I'm thinking of when I'm looking at these cards in particular, but also like coming out of really persistent, dark places, I suppose. I mean, yeah, it just sounds a bit depressing to be like, the sun is my shadow. I'm sure there's like a poem or a painting in there somewhere, but yeah, I mean, I'm learning the importance of finding the light, I suppose, and like I wasn't able to for a really long time. And so yeah, so I've kind of got this like transformation that has already sort of happened in its way in my life, of going from the magician, the smallest number, through the wheel of fortune, and you know, shit fucking happens, to the sun. And I think, you know, better that than the alternative, you know, the other way around. But yeah, you know, I'm sure as my life continues, this may make more sense, and I will have more understanding about the sun and how that interacts with my life and how that shows up in my life and stuff like that. So yeah, so that is the shadow/teacher card, which comes from the numerology of it all. Okay, the next one is an easy one, which is, so there's no, is there maths? I mean, not really. If you know when you were born, if you know your birthday, and you know your sun sign, you can work out what card is associated with that. I am a Gemini baby, and so my card is the Lovers. So if you're an Aries, it's the Emperor. If you are a Taurus, it's the Hierophant. If you are a Gemini, it is the Lovers. If you are a Cancer, it's the Chariot. Leo is Strength, as I already mentioned. Virgo is the Hermit. Libra is Justice. Scorpio is Death. Sagittarius is Temperance. Capricorn is the Devil. Aquarius is the Star, and Pisces is the Moon. So if you know your sun sign, I mean, if you know the rest of your chart, then you can see a whole map of who you are by using those cards. But most people, if you're not, you know, an astrology nerd or whatever, but you do know your sun sign, this is the Lovers, which is to do with, you know, communication. That is something that can be said about certainly all of the Geminis I know, is we do love to chat, and it's the exchange of ideas, and yeah, just like communication and creativity, and yeah, that's, I'm just trying to see what I can like point out in these cards. Yeah, it's connection, communication, balance. Yeah, so that's my sun sign card. Okay, then I'm going to go on to the, I mean, this is more astrological stuff actually. So what Mary K Greer calls your destiny card, but a lot of people would just probably describe as the card that's associated with the decan that you were born in. So that's all the minor arcana plotted onto the, I mean, the wheel of the year is another thing, but also, you know what I mean. And so mine is the Ten of Swords, which I will admit I was not super excited to find out. This is a bit of a bleak card. Well, certainly to look at. Anyway, it's a bit grim. I like it because I'm a contrarian, and I like that it's a bit overkill. I think it's a really dramatic, kind of funnily dramatic card. It reminds me of like the Five of Wands being sort of like petty conflict. This is like, yeah, all right, you know, you're making a bit of a meal of this. Was this entirely necessary? But also it's the sunrise that you see in a lot of cards. I mean, actually not a lot of these ones show the sunrise, but it's there in my mind. So you've got these more like vibrant colours here. I mean, this deck is just vibrant. But yeah, you've got this calm waters, and the storm is moving away, and it's like it's the end of something and the beginning of something else, and it's like a kind of a baby tower card. Not baby, but like it's like a tower card, but where you are the person in the picture rather than the tower. Can sometimes, to me, feel a little bit impersonal. The Ten of Swords is like, you are here, it's been a shit show, but like it could only get better from here. And so yeah, I like that, and I like the drama of it. And I find that this card, whenever it comes up, it's sort of a bit of a raised eyebrow. Like, are you making a bit of a meal of this? So that is that is my decan for where my birthday is. But then also you can get the whole of Gemini season is the 8, 9, and 10 of swords, and none of these are really fun cards. This is the like nightmare cards. I like this one in particular, the Tarot of the Divine, which is the Oracle of Delphi, and so it's that like bringer of bad news, or like telling the truth to people who don't want to hear it. And I mean that is a nightmare. I can see that. So yeah, not a very chill card. And then I mean neither is the Eight of Swords. Like the Eight of Swords kind of reminds me kind of like the Ten of Swords of this. It's a wee bit dramatic. You could probably get yourself out of this. You just need to. I don't like the kind of like toxic positivity, stiff upper lip type thing. Pull yourself together. But like sometimes I feel like when this card comes up, that is what it's saying. Is you don't have to be in a shitty situation. You could just leave. You could be more Eight of Cups rather than Eight of Swords. You could take off the blindfold. I mean, maybe not this person. This person, I would hope that someone would help you. But you can get free. You can walk away. You can go home. You can move on to the next thing. And so, like as a journey, the 8, 9, 10 of Swords is not like a thrilling thing to be associated with Gemini season. I think we're a little bit more fun than that. But also there is, and I'm saying this as someone who has most of their signs, including Gemini, in the 8th house, which is the Scorpio house, which is death and transformation and like taboo topics. So it's all like sex and death and whatnot. So I'm big into all of that, and my version of Gemini is this. But I also think that there are a lot of Geminis out there who aren't particularly like that, and so I find this really interesting. So that's the. Is that the last of the astrology? I won't promise it's the last of the astrology, but it's the last for that little bit anyway. I'll move on to something else, which is something that Marlene brought up, which is the Myers-Briggs test, which is the 16 personality types and the 16 court cards, and people have tried their best to make them line up. There's some disagreement about it, but also what I would say absolutely top of this topic is there are a lot of problems with the Myers-Briggs test, not in the least that if you took it when you were 10 and you took it when you were 20 and you took it when you were 30, 40, 50, whatever, the things that it measures are not fixed. We are not ever fully formed products, and our personalities and our priorities can and should change over time. It is a very limited view, and it is a snapshot of who you are right now. Even at that, it's a really hard thing to quantify and to separate people into 16 different types. There are presumably more than 16 different types of people. But as a fun, light-hearted thing that isn't taken too seriously, it's just another personality quiz at the end of the day, and I think that as long as you hold it like that, then there's no harm in it. I think there are ways in which people do believe it's harmful, and I completely respect those, I just can't remember them right now. But I think if you were treating it like a personality quiz, then in this instance it's fine. But do your reading. I'm happy to be disagreed with, but generally speaking it's just like you aren't ever a finished product. All that is to say, the last time I did the test I was an INFP, which is an introverted, I can't remember what the N stands for, and then it was like feeling and perceiving, but I know that I'm quite cuspy on the last two. I'm like, 51, 49 on the feeling versus thinking and perceiving and judging, which I think is right. I'm probably wrong. Anyway, all that is to say, following the link in Marlene's video, I got that I am the Page of Cups. And so that is these cards. I find this really interesting because I am a largely air sign person. My rising is in Scorpio. So I've got like a lot of, and like I said about the 8th house thing, I have a lot of Scorpio energy kind of floating around, but I don't know, I'm still not, I've worked to get to the sort of the cup energy in my life, so this is kind of interesting. I think the caption for this personality type is the mediator, and so I think that's an interesting thing for a page to be, because I don't know if the page would usually get the respect required to be something like a mediator, but I do think that the earth quality of the pages would bring something to that, and I think it's an interesting idea that the naivety of a page, and particularly the Page of Cups, would be called on to be the mediator role. And so if you follow the links, you can, find out your own MBTI type and then see which card is attributed to that type and see what you think. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't think, I also don't have much earth energy in my chart at all. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't see an awful lot of myself in the Page of Cups, Princess of Cups, Maiden of Cups, Child of Cups. But I'm willing to be proved wrong, and I think we all have all of the cards within us. So it's just interesting to see these ways of working these things out and seeing which ones make sense, which ones feel right, which ones make you go, no, not that one. And then interrogating those feelings and thinking about maybe where you'd want these sorts of energies to show up in your life, and do I want to be more Page of Cups? If not, why not? And all of those sorts of questions. So that is the first of the court cards that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh no, we are going back to astrology. I told a lie, I'm sorry. Okay, so now we've got the courts for the decans and your sun sign and stuff. So the court cards that are attributed to the decans and the sun signs are slightly wonky. They're like 1/3 of one sign and 2/3 of the other sign. So I am at the tail end of June, or the tail end of Gemini season, and so my court card is the Queen of Cups, which I find really interesting because, again, this is not a card that I see a lot of myself in. It's one that I'm working on, particularly when I work with this deck. I really love this character, but yeah, I don't see tons of myself in this card, but again, I find it really interesting because, again, I've been trying to get more in touch with my feelings, and this particular kind of sense of inner mastery and guardianship I really love, and would like to emulate, and would like to believe that I have Queen of Cups energy the way that I would like to believe that I have all of the energies like I've already said. But then as you get further out, they also attribute pages and aces, and so I've got the Ace of Pentacles, which again is interesting, like I mentioned, because I don't really have Earth. I have a Mars in Virgo, but I don't have, I love this card so much. This was up on my little kind of makeshift altar stand thing for ages, since I did a grief ceremony with Juliet Diaz's coven about managing the weight of emotions around things like the genocide in Palestine, and using those feelings to fuel us rather than to fall into apathy or despair. And it was such a valuable workshop, gathering, ceremony thing. And then also there was a cacao ceremony, and this card just felt so right in terms of the seeds being planted, that made so much sense and were kind of putting feelings that I'd had into words and being able to find wisdom from places that I haven't ever really been able to access wisdom before, and learning who I want to listen to and who I want to give my time and my energy and my respect. And I mean, like, for everyone it's been a massive wake-up call, but I think particularly within the sort of like more spiritual and woo communities, there's been a really huge divide about who believes that justice and social justice is a part of spiritual work, and people who believe that, you know, we should be super individualistic and just look away and, you know, protect our peace and raise our vibrations and all of that kind of, I mean, spiritual bypassing. And so all of that is to say, the Ace of Pentacles is one of the cards that's associated with Gemini, I think, and this card means a lot to me. I mean, it's a beautiful card, it's a great thing to come up in a reading, it's really exciting, but it's also grounded. I really love like these two in particular. I think this is for like, you know, making a wish in a well, and I really love that. But yeah, this one in particular is a really, really special card and stayed with me through like a lot of last year. And if I'm honest, I might put it up again. But then the other one is the Page of Pentacles. So, like I've already said, not a lot of earth in my chart, not something that I know a lot about or feel a lot in myself, but I really love this card. And it's something that I'm going to really think about now that I know that it's a thing that kind of, you know, shows up in my life. Again, all of these things show up in our lives. And yeah, it makes me happy. I don't necessarily see myself in these cards in the way that you might want from a significator, but like I said, interesting nonetheless, and I love this card so much. I associate it with one of my friends, and I just think it is the sweetest. Right, home stretch. We're back to Mary K Greer. We have the Knight of Swords, which is my personal potential, and I will put up a picture of the how you work out your own one on the screen. Knight of Swords feels very me. Again, I also don't have much, I mean, my chart is entirely air, basically. It's all Gemini. And so the sword suit is very me. I don't have any fire in my chart, maybe. I can have the bad habit of being more of a thinker than a doer, but I really like the Knight of Swords. I like that he's just like charging hell for leather into stuff, and this is something that I think I need to be more of. These two in particular are like how I see the Knight of Swords, in that really going for it thing. Yeah. And then the inner teacher is for me, is the King of Swords, which is, again, air of air. Can't get any more air in here, and so yeah, he absolutely makes sense. I tend not to have super fond feelings towards any of the kings or the emperor or the hierophant and stuff, but you know, that's my own issue. Having that balance of this energy alongside the other, you know, the Scorpio energy that moves through all of my chart is really interesting. And so he's definitely something to think about. Again, I don't see myself in these cards particularly, although I do love the Crown of Swords. I think she's very cool. And I think this is a griffin. And I used to live near a pub called the Griffin. And so it's that funny way that, you know, we do see ourselves in the cards in unexpected ways. I think that he's really powerful. I think he's really important. I will try and bring more of his energy into my life. And then the final one is mode of expression, and King of Cups I thought was really interesting because, as we've discussed, air and water are my main things, but the water is like a secondary factor. But I like the balance, again, of the air and the water, and that feels very me. And like, I mean, I'm absolutely not saying that I am, you know, master of emotions and feelings. oh my god, no. I've had a lot of therapy, I've not had that much therapy. And I think if anyone believes that they are a master of emotions, I don't know really what I would do with that. And so yeah, so this is another element of who I am based on, you know, numerology and ideas about which cards go with what, to go with your like birth date and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll put up the ways of working these things out on the screen. I would be super interested to hear all of yours. I mean, so how many have I given you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've given you 13 different bits of maths to do. Or, you know, working stuff out from astrological charts. That's a lot. I would be super interested to know what you use. I know that Marlene said that she uses the Lovers because she is a Gemini like me. And so yeah, I would be interested to know what card you use if you do use significator, or if you did all of these little bits of maths, which card you think sums you up the best. So even if you don't use significators in your tarot practice, yeah, I'd just be super interested. I don't know, is my answer. I don't know who I feel the most connected with. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I do feel a lot of kinship with the magician, but I'm kind of hoping that I'm sort of leaving that behind now. I also think I've kind of moved beyond the Ten of Swords for now. I mean, god damn, I imagine there will be more Ten of Swords moments in my life. But for now, I think I'm kind of getting over that hump, getting over the hurdle, moving into the following day, moving on to the next little journey, stopping being so dramatic, you know, that kind of thing. I love the Lovers. I love the kind of Mercury elements. That does feel... I didn't really get it for a long while with the Gemini thing, and I was a bit like, oh, that's not really me. But I feel it now, and yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with the Hanged Man, which is what I think I need to do at the moment this year. You know, maybe not take a pause, but just kind of turning things on their head and looking at different ways to do things. That is kind of combining that with the Strength card for this year. I think will be really, really valuable, certainly for the next 6 months. You know, we'll reassess when the time comes. So yeah, I'd be super interested to hear your cards or how you feel about significators. Yeah, just, you know, let me know. Thank you so much for sticking with me. This was a far longer video than I thought it was going to be. So I will love you and leave you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.